So not only are the Bears good, they're consistently and sustainably good. And I heard Coach Drew say, I think right after he cut down the nets when the Bears won the Big 12 championship a week or so ago, the success of the program today is built upon the backs of the guys that you're going to hear from today, at least 6 of them. So that foundation was laid by these guys, and we're just delighted that they can be a part of our broadcast today. So we're going to welcome them in. What we're going to do is I'll introduce one at a time, have a couple of thoughts about each one. Then we'll go to Q&A. I'll have some questions for them. Feel free to use your chat feature to ask some questions, and we'll log those in, and hopefully we can get to those. And we just want this to be informal. We want you to hear from these guys, and we'll answer any questions that you all have. One last thing, this session is being recorded. So if it goes well, I think it is, you can hear it again. So with that, I'm going to start introducing these guys. And the first guy I'm going to bring in is David Wesley. David Wesley was a 3-year starter at Baylor from 1990 through 1992. He was named the 92, David, Southwest Conference Player of the Year. He averaged 13 points and 5 assists over a 14-year NBA career. In 2007, he was inducted into the Baylor Athletics Hall of Fame. Here's a factoid about David. David can speak to this when we regroup. David is probably the most decorated and successful student manager in college basketball history. More to come on that. David Wesley. David, wave at the crowd.
Hey, guys.
All right, very good. Welcome in, David. Terry Black. Terry was a 2-year starter at Baylor 2000 and 2001. He still holds a school record with 2.5 steals per game. I saw him personally get 7 against Kansas and Lawrence. Terry, you might remember that. He earned first team All Big 12 honors as a senior and helped the Bears to the team's first postseason appearance in 13 years. Played 8 years of professional ball in Europe. In 2015, he was inducted into the Baylor Athletics Hall of Fame. He is also a member of Baylor's 2006 All-Centennial team. Welcome in, Terry Black.
Hey.
All right, continuing with our starting lineup, Greg Davis. Greg was a 2-year starter at Baylor in 2001 and 2002. He joined Baylor after 2 years at the University of New Mexico. He made 56 starts at Baylor, finished his career as the second best shot blocker in program history with 1.3 blocks per game. This is unofficial. This is just Nunley on Greg Davis. But when I saw him play, I think he probably led the school, Baylor, holds the Baylor record in number of broken noses received. Not given, but received. Greg, what do you think? Thumbs up?
Certainly high on the list.
High on the list. Separated shoulders, whatever. So maybe the most injured player in Baylor history. All right, moving on. Tweety Carter has joined us today. Tweety played 131 games over 4 years at Baylor. He had 89 starts. He helped the Bears to 2 NCAA appearances, including the 2010 Elite Eight. He was the first McDonald's All-American to sign with Baylor when he joined the Bears in 2006. He ranks 8th in program history with 1,437 career points, and he's 3rd with 274 made three-pointers. He earned All-American honors after leading the Big 12 in assists as a senior. And since graduating, he's played professionally and continues to play professionally in Europe. Here's a factoid on Tweety. Tweety once scored 74 points in a high school game. And I'll say this for you, Tweety. That's not even just a Louisiana record. That's a whole world record, right, Tweety? Yeah. And another piece of this is Jared Butler was in the gym to see that happen. And we're hoping that had something to do with getting him here. All right, Quincy Acy has joined us today. Quincy played in 139 games, made 66 starts at Baylor. He helped lead the Bears to 2 Elite Eight appearances, set a school record by playing in 100 career victories. He ranks 10th in program history with 1,360 career points, and he's 2nd with 177 blocks and 6th with 828 rebounds. He earned the 2011 Big 12 Six-Man Award and was a 2-time Big 12 All Big 12 honoree. Was selected by the Toronto Raptors in the 2012 NBA draft, played 7 seasons in the NBA. Here's a fact on Quincy. We all saw this happen, at least I did, probably most of you on the call today. In Texas, against Texas in 2010 in Waco, Quincy was 10 of 12 from the floor. Each of his 10 made buckets was a dunk. Quincy, you remember that?
I do.
That's high percentage. That's high percentage. I asked Coach Drew one time, I said, well, can he shoot it? He said, I don't know. All he does is dunk.
That's all I needed to do.
That's all you needed to do. And then finally, a familiar face, King McClure. King was a 4-year letter winner from 2016 to 2019, played in 129 games, overcoming what was initially diagnosed as a career-ending heart condition as a freshman. He came on to help the Bears attain their very, very first #1 ranking, national ranking, and a Sweet 16 berth in 2017. Graduating from Baylor, he became the youngest college basketball analyst ever hired by ESPN. Another fact about King McClure was the valedictorian of his high school class. It was a 2-time all-academic Big 12 selection. So welcome, guys. Like I told the group before you guys came on, we got 6 legends, not just one. So I'm going to start with some questions, and then we'll have chats from the group. But the first question is, guys, we're going to go around the horn. David, we'll start with you. What you're doing now, and then your most memorable game as an individual or as a team at Baylor, and what made it most memorable. David.
What I do now is I do pre and post game for analysts for the New Orleans Pelicans. I've been working with them since 2012. At first I did in-game analyst. Now I do pre and post game for the last 2 years. And my most memorable game, no doubt, would have to be the Arkansas game that we won, noon game. I know this is going to sound crazy that I remember it's February 10th, 1990, but
it was memorable.
And we won that game. Here's a little fun thing. So back then they had the little blue box on ESPN at the bottom, and you had to be playing a ranked game, and you had to be at the high score. That was my first blue box. It was really a big deal, and I made a big deal out of it. Also, that same night after we beat Arkansas, Buster Douglas beat Tyson.
Now, David, wasn't Arkansas 3 in the country at the time?
Yes, and 1 and 2 had already lost.
Okay.
So they would come Monday, they would have been #1.
All right, very good. Terry Black, same question. What are you doing now, and most memorable game?
All right, for me, my second love has always been vehicles. So within the last 2 years, I've started a mobile oil change company, which we actually go out and do on-site oil changes, tire rotation, and things of that nature. As far as basketball, my most memorable game, it would definitely have to be the Kansas game.
Right.
For me, usually, as players, we all have a different routine or ritual that we do. That day that we played Kansas, I follow nothing that, I normally do, from after pregame, going to wash my car to taking a nap and just everything that I normally do. We didn't do any of that. I think we had a paintball fight, with some of our teammates. So, we did nothing. But, beating Kansas at home, that was a pretty sweet deal for us.
Yeah. And Terry, there was extra motivation, as I recall. Kansas had, what was the deal? Kansas had just lost or something, and it wasn't like, or maybe the Baylor, you guys won, and somebody made the comment, it wasn't like it was Iowa State that beat.
I think Kansas had just lost. They had just lost to, I believe, North Carolina or Duke or something like that, but it got referenced, but it just didn't sit well with us, and, we came out ready to go.
Yeah, all right, very good. Terry, welcome in. Quincy, how about you? What are you doing now? Most memorable moment?
Right now, just took some time off. It's kind of crazy right now with everything going on, but took some time off to get my body right. And I have 3 kids now, so took some time to spend some much needed quality time with them. Just being here at home every day with them has been amazing. So just doing that, working out, and just getting my body right for next year. My most memorable game or moment, I'd probably say when I had 10 dunks, and like Terry said before the game, it was kind of different because my mom, she was a school teacher, and she had a whole bunch of kids up there for that game. She had a busload of kids. It's like 80 kids or something like that. All came to the game, and I had to show them the whole locker room and walk around and tour the whole gym. I didn't get to get my pregame nap, and I thought my legs were going to be pretty dead for the game, but I ended up having 10 dunks that night. So, that was amazing for not only the kids to see, but my mom to see. And, it was just a memorable moment. So
Yeah,
that was fun.
terrific. Greg Davis, same question.
Sure. Well, first of all, your introduction of me is further reason why I'm confused why I'm on this legend call. But it is an honor to be with this group. These guys truly are legends. Maybe they're capital L. I'll take the lowercase L. But today I'm fortunate enough I get to work for Baylor. I'm an associate vice president for development, so work with our donor community and get a lot of joy out of fundraising for our student athletes, our students across campus, scholarships, facilities, and hopefully one of those facilities right around the corner is a new basketball venue that both our men and women can enjoy. So that's something we're in the throes of now. But married a Baylor volleyball player, Dana Chua, and we've got 3 kids and live 20 minutes from campus. So we love it. But most memorable game, I think the Kansas one certainly is high on that list. And kind of that story was Kenny Gregory had talked after losing to Iowa State, and those were the top 2 teams in the conference, 7 to 8 NBA guys on between the 2 rosters. And his quote to the reporter was, it's not like we lost to Baylor or A&M. And so, of course, after we rushed the court and, it was Big Monday and all those things, either Terry or DeMarcus went on ESPN and said, hey, it's just another win. It's not like we beat North Carolina or Duke. And so as bunch of 21-year-olds, we thought that was pretty good stuff. But I think probably my most memorable game would be our Big 12 tournament win that year against Iowa State. Jamal Tinsley was a great point guard, and is just one of those games where you go into it, you do the walkthrough, you literally know everything they're going to do before they ever do it, and it's just one of those games where everything's clicking in an unbelievable way. And as Terry was an incredible leader, incredible player, but Terry wasn't your best game, right? I mean,
no,
but it was one of those things where it's like, even when your star is not playing his best game, the team play that game was just incredible. And so being at the Big 12 tournament, we all know Iowa State fans are the most represented fan base there. And so sending them home early was a lot of fun.
Very good. Tweety Carter, how about you?
Right now, well, I'm in Portugal right now, Lisbon, playing with SL Benfica, such a great club. You see me representing them right now.
Well, and you got an injured reserve.
Yeah, you see me right now. I'm out right now, but they're doing a great job taking care of me, so it's always a blessing. I'm gonna be a little bit different than everybody. I got 3 memorable games, actually. Yeah, I know. It's like that, man. I'm gonna have to agree with Q on that one. That Texas game, just to see him, do something special like that from the beginning of his career to lead to finish that with 10 dunks on, my senior night was amazing. For me to be a part of that. And to see him grow and to do that was just amazing. Texas A&M 5 overtime game.
Right.
I can't forget about that game because it was just, again, an amazing experience. It was fun to be a part of. And the game against St. Mary's to go to the Elite 8 against Duke. I would never forget that. That game, it was just a great experience for the whole team. Everybody, came ready to play. And it was just fun to experience that with so many different groups of guys. So.
Very good. I remember, as you guys are talking, I mean, I saw all these games and I'm remembering those, and man, those were some great moments. King, how about you? You had some great moments too.
Yeah, so right now I'm currently with ESPN, a college basketball analyst. I call our games and I do a lot of TV shows with ESPN right now. My favorite memory, I got a few. I'd have to go with Louisville, the game in the Bahamas, down by 20, came back. Donovan Mitchell was on that team, and we ended up winning by like 1. I actually took the lead with like a minute to go. It's kind of crazy because before that game, I think I was like 0 for 25 from the field, leading up to it, like in the first 3-4 games. And I really wasn't playing Coach Drew, honestly. He only threw me in the game because we were down by 20, so we had nothing to lose. So I ended up playing and ended up coming back, and that was like probably my most memorable game. So,
Very good. All right. So again, we're still kind of in warm-up stage here. So Tweety and Quincy, you guys played on one of the best teams we've ever had, 2010, that Elite Eight team. So your team, 2010, plays this team this year, best of 5 series. Who wins and why? Tweety, you go first.
I mean, it's a tough one, not in the sense of competition, like that 2010 team that we had was just a different group of guys. Like, and we refuse individually to be scored on, or we refuse individually first. And then when we brought that together as a team, like it just made us unstoppable. You got to think about my senior year. We never lost a game by more than 7 points. So it was gonna be a dogfight. No matter what game we was in, it was gonna be a dogfight. And that's all I could really say about this team. Like, if they wasn't ready to fight for those 5 games, we're gonna get it. Like, it's no question. Like, we was gonna fight until we couldn't fight no more. And I love this group too, because they do things similar to what we had. They got guys that clean up the glass. They got an AC. They got Epe, that where they don't have an Epe down there. I take that back, but they got guys that can put the ball in the hole, and to have that is always special. But we just had a grit about us that we didn't care who it was. You had to really take us out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a tough one. It's
Yeah,
a tough one. I'm gonna have to, ride with us. I'm gonna have to ride with us on that one.
I got you.
Much respect for these guys and what they're doing, and I love them to death, and what they're doing and accomplishing.
Yeah, very good. Q, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, same thing as Tweety said. I mean, this is a good group of guys right now that's playing right now. But I think we were a different breed, from top to bottom. And I think we would have a little more size than them. We had big Lomers, Epe. I mean, even Ant Jones was starting at the three. So, I think we had a lot more size, and I think we kind of would have, we'd have won.
It would have just been a crazy. And we had a guy Lace out there that ain't missing too much of nothing. And you got to box out Epe and Q. You already need a double team Q. You forget he's 18 for 18 his first couple college games. You get what I'm saying? So it was just, it's hard. He not missing no dunks. And J-Lo gonna foul whoever coming in the paint.
Right. But I mean, that's a sign of a great team. You guys are going, you're gonna have to beat us. I don't know, but you're not giving anything to anybody. All right, good. Hey, King. So King, you were in between those guys. You had 2010, 2012, 2 Elite Eights, and then you came in. So you got maybe a glimpse of what these guys are talking about, that length, a lot of zone. And then Scott has over time moved into more of a man-to-man, which is what they're doing now. Talk about that. Why did that happen? How did it? And how's it working out?
Yeah, I think, Coach, one thing that you don't really see in today's game is coaches being able to adapt and adjust. A lot of coaches are so stuck in their ways. But Coach Drew's ability to, understand how the game is being played and understand that in order for me to win, I have to evolve along with the game. And he did that. He used to, when I was there my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, and beginning of senior year, right? Basically all 4 years, we threw the ball into the paint at all times. I mean, granted, we had great post players. We had Jonathan Motley, who was Karl Malone Player of the Year. We had Tristan Clark, who was probably shooting like 65 from the field. So I see why he did it. But when Tristan Clark went down against Iowa State, he turned into more of a perimeter-based offense, letting his guards play free, letting his guards kind of sort of remind you of the way Tweety and Lace played, letting his guards just go out there and ultimately just run the show, shoot whatever shot they want, just playing free instead of basically making it like kind of scripted in a sense. So once he did that, I feel like that's what we see now. I mean, with Jared Butler, Davion, Mace, the way that they're able to go out there and just take whatever shot they want to take. I mean, there's no such thing as a bad shot. I mean, granted, you can learn from it on film, but there's really no such thing as a bad shot as long as you're confident when you shoot it. And I think that that's what we see right now. The confidence, the freedom, the guard-oriented offense. Coach Drew was able to adapt, and a lot of coaches can't do that. So shout out to Coach Drew for being willing and accepting that challenge.
Yeah, really good, King. You guys talk about Lace. we interviewed him after a game where he just went off. He had 38 at Tech. And I said, Lace, is there a spot on the floor where you just can't make a shot from? And he said, he thought for a minute, and then he said, out of bounds. And then he said, no, wait a minute. He says, I can make one from out of bounds, but what's the point? That's Lace, right? That was Lace. All right, David, I'm coming to you. So going back to the student manager thing. So you have this incredible NBA career, 14 years, and then you decide to come back and play the role of student manager for the Baylor basketball team. Talk about that journey, your decision making. What was that about, and how was it being back and wearing that hat?
Well, it was a great journey, and I was going back to finish my degree. A promise I made to my mom, and realizing I was the only person in my immediate family, the 5 of us, that did not have a degree. So, even though I just finished a 14-year career, I wanted to go back, and then I got an opportunity to meet the team that I was on. But I was actually in class on campus, and my oldest daughter is plus or minus a month Quincy's age. So when I learned that, like, these guys are young enough to be my kids that that I'm going to class with, that was kind of eye-opening, but it was a lot of fun as well. I got to know a good group of guys. So when I was at Baylor, we went to the NIT, lost the first game. That was my extent of postseason play. So that was my first opportunity to be around a team that went deep into the playoffs, deep into the tournament, and played really well. I mean, what a group of guys. You talk about Quincy, starting his career off, making his first, 18, 25 shots. And then he gets to the pros and he becomes a 3-point shooter. I'm watching TV one night and he's catch and shoot, like running to the 3-point line. I said, now this is the same guy I just watched dunk everything in sight. Now he's a 3-point shooter. Good job evolving with the game. But being back on campus and being around Coach Drew, and I played with his brother in New Orleans. So I had an idea already who Coach Drew was before I got there, but just to meet him and see how he ran his program, it really gave me a lot of thought on whether I wanted to coach college or pros. And until I fell into doing the analyst job, I was looking to coach. I coached 2 years in the D League, but being a student manager, good times. It was a lot of fun being on that bench, being around those guys, being in the locker room, talking to them. Got an opportunity to play some when I first got there before I had knee surgery. So it was a good time, a good year for me.
What a role model. I mean, you guys that were around him, I mean, again, to come back and be committed to that and the commitment he made to his mother, that's unbelievable. Terry Black, so we'll bring you in. So, you graduated a little bit later, right? You went off and played, came back, got your degree. So maybe kind of the same question. What was that journey like?
I mean, it was an awesome journey. And like David, you make promises, when you leave, and, ultimately you want to go back and, that degree is something that's for you. It can't ever be taken from you. And ultimately I want to go back and get that degree. I think when I left, I was only about 15 hours short. So, it wasn't that far, out of sight. And then just being back, around the guys. I didn't get to see David play, but, I pretty much, met all of these guys and got to watch them play and kind of be around them. So, I think it's just an exciting time that, to get to watch Baylor over the years and then just to see where they are right now. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's terrific. Greg Davis, you've seen the team a lot. You're on campus, and so you got a chance to watch them. What do you see in this team that's a reflection of how Scott and his staff lead the program?
Oh, that's a good question. I think something that Scott, when he first came to Baylor, I was the academic advisor, and Tweety remembers, working on schedules and all those good things. But ever since day one, ever since Scott arrived, there was this emphasis on caring for your brother, caring for your teammate, caring for those around you, and some personal accountability of you know, how you handle your business. And Tweety kind of talked about that when comparing his 2010 team versus this team, and what would happen. Like, there's a personal ownership of, I've got a job to do and I've got to care for the guy that's next to me. And I think when you do that, it's fun. Your success follows, celebrations follow. And watching this team, they have fun. I mean, the fact that, you know, when Jared passes the ball and someone hits a shot, Jared's just as happy and he's smiling, he's high-fiving. And when, you know, a couple of those random Matthew Meyer putback dunks or whatever, you see the other guys jumping higher than he is in celebrating his success. And so I think Scott and the whole staff, and it's been this way since day one, is this emphasis of hey, that person next to you needs to matter just as much as you think you matter. And when all that happens, you know, beautiful things occur, outcomes happen, success takes place, and we're seeing it unfold. And so their mantra this year of kind of this culture of joy, you see it. It doesn't feel, it's real, and it doesn't feel fake. And that's where I think people that know Scott or don't know Scott, they're confused by, what coach is this upbeat and optimistic in every interview? Like, well, that's the approach he's taken to life, and he wants his players to take it too. So, you know, that's why, you know, watching this team play, you want to see him go out and win the whole thing, because I think they've done things the right way and sacrifice personal successes at times for the greater good of the team.
Yeah, it's really well stated. I'm keeping an eye on our questions. And so, and by the way, everybody listening, feel free, any question you want, we're going to have them screened, but the ones that pass the screening process, and we're going to be easy with that. But ask those. We got one from Jim Farrell. Quincy, it's for you. Against Duke, foul or no foul?
Definitely not a charge for sure. Yeah, I think I was already airborne as he was still sliding. I still haven't watched it. I know I can get on like Sports Code or something like that and watch it, but I just haven't watched it yet, man. I still can't stomach it. But that was definitely a blocking foul, and that would have been his last foul. He'd have been out of there, and yeah, that would have been all she wrote there. We'd have broke their spirit at that point.
Yeah. Tweety, you were on the floor too. What'd you see?
Same thing. Same thing. And we reacted like and one type deal. You know, we knew it was a crucial point at that time, and like you said, we would have got him on out of there, and that would have took a blow to their defense for sure.
Yeah. All right, we got another question, and I'm gonna just throw it out for all of you guys. Best Baylor basketball in the last 30 years. I'm sorry, best Baylor basketball player in the last 30 years. Might have to chew on that one. I think that is from, let me make sure, that is Blake Harris. What do you guys think? King, let's start with you. Now, you young guys, you're in a disadvantage here, but what do you think, King?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've had so many. I think just based off accolades and based off what they've done, I think you might have to look at my man, David Wesley. I mean, 13, 14 years in the league. Yeah. He's up there for sure. College accolades, I mean, guess you could maybe say Jared Butler, just because what he's done as far as considered first Big 12 player of the year in history. Yeah. We've had some tough ones. I know one of the most talented guys I've ever played with was two. It's Terry Maston and Matthew Meyer. I think those two guys are probably the two most talented guys I played with. Yeah. Because I've seen Terry Maston have 31 on Mo Bamba and at Texas and literally put us on his back and carried us to the finish line.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I've seen Matthew Myers is 6'9", 2-guard, really super talented. So those are two of the most talented guys I've ever played with. Yeah. Best player, that's hard. We've had so many.
Yeah. Terry, how about you? There you go.
So what King was just saying, it's just been so many. I think it starts with David Wesley and what those guys are doing there. And, you know, you can look across this panel, you know, each of us has done good things at Baylor. You know, Brady Haslip, he's always been one of my favorite players to watch because he just shoots the ball from anywhere, you know, and there's so many. That's a tough question for me.
Yeah. Greg Davis. I'm going to the guys that are a little more seasoned now. So Greg, what do you think? You're in that category.
Yeah, no, that is a tough question, and it's so true. I'm pretty partial to those that play in the post. And I remember watching the way Epe changed the entire dynamics of a game defensively, hitting big shots. Just impressive. He's not overly impressive on any particular like athleticism or not, but he was so effective, and Motley's a lot of the same way. Just they knew how to get things done. But my teammate, here that's on this call, Terry Black was someone that brought a level of intensity to the game that made everybody around him better. And defensive end, you mentioned 2.5 steals a game, dunking and taking the energy out of the room. I mean, those are total game changers. And that Kansas game, it was of course a game that I fouled out, which was kind of something I also did a lot of, Pat, in addition to getting injured. But gave me a chance to watch Terry, dropped 7-8 dunks in that game, crazy alley oops, and I think players like Terry, that period of time, that's where I think more and more younger guys began to say, man, that may be a place to go play big time basketball, and there's highlights out there that I can get excited about.
That is a great point, Greg. David, I'm coming to you. But that's what Coach Drew was saying is, along the way, key players and other players who didn't get as much notoriety. I mean, the success of the program today is built on the backs of you guys and all of your teammates. Greg, that's a really good point. And you guys let the world know you can win at Baylor. You can, and you can win big. David, how about you? Same question, 30 years. What do you think?
Well, for me, I look at it, even though, I was able to play after Baylor. I would answer the question more on the lines of what you were able to do at Baylor, including playing the tournament, which we never did. I was not able to carry my team into the tournament. So when I look at Baylor, I'm sure there are several guys that have better Baylor careers. I got there my sophomore year. I was hurt some of my sophomore year. I think I missed 12 games or something in my sophomore year. So even number of games, I can't compete with a lot of these guys that's come in 4 years, started as a freshman or played a lot as a freshman, and then had awesome Baylor careers. So I would look, to 2008 and on when things really started getting. I remember when I first came out of Baylor, people started talking about basketball and college basketball. I'd keep my mouth shut. It wasn't until about then that I could be, like, yeah, I'm one of you. Yeah, what are we talking about? They in there, my boys out there getting it, that kind of thing. So, and again, I don't know who I would pick because there's been a lot of good players in that time, but I certainly would look more to guys that, got that opportunity to play and play well for a longer period of time.
Okay, very good. All right, Dave, we're going to stay with you. We've got a question from Marie Brown. Favorite Southwest Conference team to play against? So just found her March 8, 1990 Lariat, where you were named to the AP newcomer team.
I don't get the answer about the legends.
What?
You know, like Quincy Acy.
Oh, I'm sorry, Q. I'm over here reading. I'm reading the questions.
Right, me or Q, right?
It's okay.
I'm trying to multitask here.
It's okay. We're giving the people what they want. I mean, kind of like what everybody else said. There's so many important pieces along the way. But I play with Epe. Epe is my favorite player. But I'll look at it like a Brian Skinner. I feel like he kind of had the record books on lock for a while there. You got Vinnie Johnson, a lot of guys that, I used to see on the wall, before all of us current players started getting on the wall, that really laid that foundation, I feel like. So, statistically, I feel like maybe a Brian Skinner, just because I know I was personally chasing a lot of his records.
Yeah. Good point. All right, Tweety, how about you? I don't leave anybody out.
Yeah, don't leave me out, man, because you know, I'm on same thing with Q, you know, because in order to start something, I had to start somewhere, and these guys set the path for us, gave us these opportunities. And like David said, coming back, you know, you got an NBA guy right in front of your face, you know, coming to school, doing these things, trying to help you. And he know every day I'm asking him probably 30 questions on this, that, and the third, you know, but because it's a respect thing, especially dribbling this ball. And like you said, I got a lot of, my favorite player is Epe, you know, just because what he brought. But I love Quincy the same way. I love Lace the same way because they gave so much. Even Fred Ellis, Josh Long, like it's just, man, it's just so many players you could mention that done so many things that may not show up, you know, like, and it's you want to give that credit to them. And it's tough. It's a tough question for me to answer, but I respect a lot of guys that came through Baylor, and the guys that's playing now, I respect them a lot. So it's just, I'm loving what Baylor doing in general.
Yeah. You know, I'm the moderator, so I'm not answering questions, but I just got to say this. In terms of my memorable moments, 2008, we're the last team invited into the NCAA tournament. We're all in the Farrell Center, and they announced Baylor, the last team to be invited into the tournament. And I really thought, you guys were there, I thought that's when we took a step. I mean, a major step.
And not to cut you off, sorry about this. We forgetting about one guy, man, that really, a couple guys, Curtis Geralds, Aaron Bruce, Henry Dugat, Kevin Rogers. Like, man, those guys helped me out personally so much. And it just like trickled down, you know, like they gave me so much knowledge when I got to college because I wasn't ready. I should have been a guy that redshirted, you know, but it was like, I was ready to play, but physically, condition-wise, I wasn't ready to handle school and going and doing all that at that point. And those guys helped me along the way. So I always got big respect for those guys that set that tone. And that goes back to say to what all these past older guys did for us to get us to.
Well, Tweety, you may not have been ready, but you did get 30 at Syracuse.
That was a blessing. That was a blessing.
Yeah. Terry Black, let me start these questions with you. And this is for everybody, just be thinking about it. So, you know, part of the theme of this today is preparing champions for life. That's really what the athletic department's all about. So Terry, how did your experience as a Baylor basketball player prepare you for your adult life, your career, to be a
it did. I think with me, you know, just being at Baylor, being away from home, first off, 1,100 miles, Milwaukee, Wisconsin's home, it gave me an opportunity to mature. You know, and that's something that, you know, the things I've learned at Baylor, I was able to carry those with me, you know, overseas. You know, I took a further step of being away from home, you know, to being in different countries. And, you know, so I think Baylor was a stepping stone for me to get me to where I am in life. It taught me to be competitive. Ultimately, it put a lot of responsibility on me. I was taught to be a leader. And those are just some of the things that, you know, I carry in my everyday life, you know, and just try to pass that on to my kids.
Yeah, terrific. King, how about you?
A little bit more personal, I mean, in the sense Coach Drew, David Chandler, who's on this call, pretty much saved my life in a sense. I mean, I didn't know I had this heart disease. And when they found out that I had it, I was able to get a defibrillator placed inside of me, and it's like a safety net. It saved me. So I think that right there showed me what it meant to, because that's like the first hard adversity I ever went through in my life. So it showed me how to bounce back. I mean, I had so many great men around me, the whole staff, DC. I keep saying DC because he was like my number one person when I went through all this, my guy, Coach Drew. I had so many great men around me to just show me how to bounce back from adversity. And when life hits you, the key is the response. And I learned that the hard way when I went through my heart disease, went through my struggle with my heart. And that prepared me for right now. I mean, when I go through my NBA draft process and every single NBA team tells me no, they red flag me. And I have a daughter and I want to go overseas. It's almost like, what's the next option? What's the next thing I want to go to?
Yeah.
And I ended up finding this. I mean, when God closes one door, another one opens. And that was the biggest thing I had to learn. And if it wasn't for the staff, wasn't for Coach Drew, DC, so many people, a myriad of people at Baylor, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, even
Sure.
people on this call, for sure. Tweety, you was there for me. So I think that's the biggest thing it taught me, the aspect of bouncing back from adversity.
Yeah, that's great. Greg Davis, how about you?
Yeah, I think what the two answers I've already heard are, pretty spot on. I think the community that you're able to be a part of, that's obviously the locker room and the staff and your teammates and the way you can learn from one another. But, I think the Baylor community, even broader than that, is one that shows a lot of love and a lot of care. I was a transfer student athlete, started off at University of New Mexico and transferred after my sophomore year. And so had two different college experiences to kind of compare that to. And I think, Baylor is distinct. It's unique. It's different. And a lot of that's, the commitment of faith and to be able to carry that out. And I think that's one of the things, just watching Scott today and this staff today that we know all those guys are leaving with is, regardless of basketball accolades or whether they go to the NBA or overseas or whatever it may be, that we know they've been introduced, if they hadn't been prior, to the word and the way that may shape their lives, the next 80 years later. And I think that's what we get reminded of often as a student athlete at Baylor is that there's a lot to life rather than just this basketball that's right in front of me today. And all these guys on here are examples of doing big things that are going to carry them well beyond, however long their basketball careers go.
Yeah. I'm going to add a little layer to that question, basically. And one thing I've noticed, Greg, you just spoke to it, is the culture of this program. It's powerful. I mean, what Scott has done to create a culture that everybody has bought into, it is powerful. And to your point, Greg, it's different. And Quincy, I'm going to tell the story. I'm going to be nice. But we were with the Baylor team before a Baylor-Kentucky game in Lexington. And Coach Drew pipes Quincy in to give a pregame talk. Quincy, it was your first year out or maybe the second year out. He's in the NBA. He's in Toronto. And Coach Drew wants him to speak to the team. And Quincy, of course, did a terrific job. But along the way, Quincy gets worked up. And he said something, and it wasn't very bad, but he used a word that at Baylor basketball, you're going to do push-ups for, right? And so, Quincy, we talked about this earlier. You really don't remember that. I do vividly, because what Quincy said was, I'll do those push-ups later. But you remembered push-ups, right? So that's part of this culture. Quincy, I want you to speak to that. Not necessarily the pep talk, but so the culture that Coach Drew was able to build and had you guys locked arms around. What did that mean to you moving forward?
That meant everything. I mean, when I got to Baylor, I was 17 years old, so I was young. I had some great veterans, Tweety, Epe, Fred, Curtis, Gerald, Henry Dugas, Kevin, all those guys, Mamadou. They all took me under their wing. They treated me like a little brother. I was the goofy kid running around, and they really saved me from a lot of trouble I could have got into. And I'm forever indebted to those guys. But kind of like King said and Greg said as well, like the community, the staff, the coaches, I'm still really close to all the coaches that were coaches when I was playing, and they just were great human beings, great men. They set a standard of how to conduct yourself and how to, just be a family man and be a godly man and still handle your work. And, that meant a lot for me. I had my son in college. My wife she went to Baylor as well, so Baylor has meant everything for me, and again, to the coaches and the staff, they still do a great job of keeping in touch with everybody today. They text my mom, Miss Karen, she texts my mom, like the whole community there in Waco is special. And, they really make a point to get everybody involved and put community first, before basketball. And that's been big for me in my life.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned taught you to be a godly man. There is a spiritual component to this staff, and may not fly at other schools across the country. Don't know, but got the sense maybe it wouldn't everywhere else. Tweety, what did that mean to you? The culture.
No, I mean, I said it from when I first committed to Baylor. I committed beginning of my 9th grade year of high school, you know, and everybody would look at me and say, why are you going to Baylor? Why is this? Why is that? And I always said I wanted to be a part of a special program. Like something about the coaching staff, like you said, and when they was recruiting me being the first McDonald All-American, me doing what I was doing individually, they never promised me that I was going to come there and start. They never promised me anything. They always told me you can come here and work. And Coach Tang was one of my guys that I talked to the most. And when I got to college, I hated. Me and Coach Tang just did not see eye to eye at all. But he's the same person he was then, now, you know, and that's what I respect about him the most is just that they never changed on me, no matter good, bad, through my ups, downs, struggles. They never changed on me, and that's what I always wanted in life of people around me. Just don't change on me. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to go through our ups and downs. If you expecting me to give you something, I'm expecting it back. And they just give me nothing but honesty and realness, and I respect them forever for that. And look where we at now, holding this conversation in a special moment that we all sharing together, not individually, not everybody sharing this moment together. And it just feels good because when you talk about a special moment in 2007, 2008, people looking at you like, what special moment? Ain't nothing special. Like we won 4 games my freshman year. 4 in conference. Like I was like, oh, I don't know what to do. I even like he said, when he first came with energy, I seen him. He had another year in high school. Mind you, we coming out winning 4 games. I'm like, I seen him windmill in some Debo slippers under the goal, just windmilling. I'm like, you're coming to school now. Like what you need to go back to high school for? We need you now. You know, just to be a part of all of this and get to have this conversation today, man, it's special.
Yeah, it's terrific. Hey, Terry, so you didn't play for Coach Drew, but you're around and you've been a part of the program for a while now. What caused you to come back? I mean, was it a reach out? Have they kind of recruited you, or what got you?
When I was playing, Coach Drew was recruiting a cousin of mine from back home. So he called me. I believe I was in Germany at the time. So he called me. We kind of built a relationship from there, and I'll never forget. It was one year I was home because he told me if I ever need anything, just give him a call. So I called him, of course, and I called in a favor for about 10 tickets. And then, he laughed. He was like, well, you don't ask for anything small, do you? So we've kind of built a relationship over time. And then when I was back finishing up with my degree, I got to meet some of these guys here and kind of be on the day-to-day with them. And it's been, and for me, I look at the culture. I look at, the culture where it was at and where it is now. And I think all these guys here, they've all held each other accountable. They've all competed, every day you go to practice, it's going to be a dogfight. But I mean, that's where I can attest just being around over the years and knowing how Coach Drew operates. I think that's what makes it more special for me, just in seeing that part of it.
Yeah. David, so Marie is not going to let you go without answering this question. Your favorite, I just got to ask it, and I'm ready for the answer. Favorite Southwest Conference team to play against back in the day, and why?
It would be between Texas and Arkansas, obviously, because they were top of the league and you wanted to play against the best. I remember by the time I was a senior, Arkansas was no longer in the conference, but I had my eyes set on Texas. I didn't like their fans. I didn't like their school. And I wanted to get buckets. So it was, I loved playing against them. I loved when they were in our arena. I loved going to their place because it was going to be rowdy. So those are my 2 teams.
Okay, very good. As you guys are answering them,
can I speak on the what everybody else is talking about? Because
you bet. Please.
Like Terry, who wasn't a part of Coach Drew.
Yeah,
could see the difference. And that's the first thing I noticed when I came back and was around this team. is the culture had changed considerably. And, mad props to Coach Drew and what he's able to do, but the coaching staff and the guys around and how they made sure that everybody was accountable and doing what they're supposed to do and all those things. And not to say that the Gene Iba crew didn't do the same, but you can tell there's a different culture and a respect. And like you said, when these guys leave, they still have that real connection because of that culture, and maybe a little more than previous generations of basketball players that went to Baylor.
That's a great point. Which raises a point, David. And by the way, everybody, we got 6 minutes left, but one of the questions was, can we keep doing this? So we're going to hang on for a few minutes. This is great. Really enjoying this, and everybody else is. So we're going to hang on. Don't feel like we're going to cut off right at 1. So David, as you're answering that, prompted my thinking. People view Scott Drew and Coach Tang and others as being really nice guys. Scott is such a nice guy, right? So you have a tendency to go, well, so he's soft, or whatever the word is. I mean, I'm sure we all heard that along the way. And one thing I'm hearing from other people now that we're getting some notoriety is how tough they are. So and King, I'm gonna start with you. What's this nice thing? And how does that equate into making teams like you guys tough and tough-minded? King?
Yeah, I think a lot of times Coach Drew gets that rep because he's not out here like Bob Huggins or Bob Knight. I hate cursing people out every 5 minutes and calling you all types of words. You don't got to do that to build a tough culture. It's instilled with the practices, with the type of players you recruit. You don't have to basically call somebody all types of words in order to make them tougher, quote unquote. I think that's crazy. But I mean, it's different because, I think like almost in a sense you respect him more because he kind of respects you because he's not calling you out your name. So you know that man loves you. And you know that when a coach ever does that for you and never talks bad about you, never talks down about you. I can probably count on my hands, like one hand, the amount of times I've ever heard Coach Drew say a curse word in 4 years being around him and knowing him for about probably 8 or 9. Count on one hand. And the one time he did it, he was super mad at Mott because Mott did something stupid. And everybody probably got mad at Mott for this. But he I ain't gonna tell you what he did. Actually, I'll tell you what he did. He played intramural football and got caught in intramural football right before the season.
Oh, no.
And Coach Drew was so mad, he cursed that one time. And when he did that, he dropped down and did a push-up like we talked about earlier, Pat. Dropped down, did his push-up. I think he might have cursed 2 times, so he did 20 push-ups. So he dropped down, did his push-ups, kept it going. Then he was happy in the next hour. So I mean, it just that about Coach Drew, his uplifting spirit. He always wants to see the better in people, and he's so optimistic. It carries and it spreads, and that right there is so big. I think for the culture that we kept talking about, because Coach Drew builds that culture of positivity, of uplifting people, not tearing people down. And like I said earlier, you don't have to call people names in order to make them tougher. It's instilled within them. It goes through the practices, all of that. So credit to Coach Drew because I liked it. I don't like being called out my name. Coach Drew never did that. So I love Coach Drew. I love the way he went about everything. So he's not soft for everybody that says he is. He's far from that.
Yeah, really, really good comments. Tweety, Quincy, I'm asking you guys the same question. Quincy, I'll start with you. Because when I think of 2010, for sure, 2012 as well, but 2010, Tweety, you said it, that was a gritty team. That was a tough basketball team. So Quincy, same question.
I think it's really just the type of guys he recruits, you know what I'm saying? Or that has a lot to do with it. And he sets standards, don't get it wrong. He gonna yell at you. He might not say a cuss word, but he kind of spazzes out sometimes. And he'll get Coach Charlie on you. And the coaching staff, they hold their own as well. So it's like a community effort to instill a toughness. They challenge you. Coach Tang, like Tweety said earlier, he does a great job of playing mind games. He can get the best out of you, and he really challenges you to see what you're made of. So You know, a lot of guys don't make it. You know, like everybody that's come through this program don't last. You know, so they do instill a toughness, and they do great things to get it out of you. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But I don't think coach is soft. Coach is not soft
Yeah.
by any means. You know, just because you're not, you know, bravado or whatever, machismo, doesn't mean you're a soft man. You know, you can, like King said, get your point across without all the extra. So.
Yeah.
You know,
Really good, Tweety.
Pat, I think
Okay,
no one
great.
really wants to disappoint the people that love them, you know, and I think as Tweety talked about, you know, you feel cared for and you don't want to disappoint those people, and you don't need to be, you know, cussed at or, you know, acted crazy toward in order to work hard for those people. And, you know, I think Scott and the whole staff, going back to guys like Driscoll and you know, Mills, and I mean, they love on you hard, and it's, you know, and for, you know, players on teams come from all sorts of backgrounds, and, you know, in some situations that may be the first person that's really loved them, and that'll last a lifetime. And I think that gets played out a lot in how you watch freshmen grow into seniors that stick around that whole time. You look at Quincy and what he developed into over that duration, or Corey Jefferson, or some of these guys that took these huge all these guys on here of when someone cares about you and is willing to put in time alongside you, you're able to blossom. And, you know, you see it on this current roster and all the previous ones over the last, 18, 17 years, however many years he's been at Baylor. And I think it's going to continue because it's ingrained. He's not being someone that he's not. You know, it's genuine and it's authentic, and that can carry you out for, you know, your whole life. And so I think that's what makes Scott, I think, really, really special. And Pat, you've interviewing him, you know, over his whole time, you've had a front row seat to see that as well. And I would be remiss if we exited this call and didn't also notice that Pat, in your own right, is quite the legend in Baylor basketball history. And so even though you're the moderator, you know, appreciate what you've done for Baylor basketball too.
Well, thanks, Greg. As you get older and older and older, you just kind of become a legend. Like,
Gray hair helps.
Just vintage. Maybe vintage is the better word. But thank you for that, Greg. Tweety, you were going to have a comment. We'll go to David and Terry. By the way, we're at 1 after the top of the hour. We're going to go 3 or 4 more minutes. We were specifically requested to do that. So I want to hear from the 3 of you, and then we'll see how much time we've got. But this is going well, Tweety.
Well, I'm gonna be real quick, and a lot of people forget what happened at Baylor, and I don't know, you know, and it's something you want to forget about in the past, a tragic situation, but I don't think nobody soft coming to that situation and stick through everything we've been through and get to this point. You have to have some type of toughness about you. And that's what I respected about the whole staff. They never backed down from us winning 4 games, getting talked about, being laughed at. And, you know, they didn't treat us a certain way, made us feel like we wasn't worth it. They made us even fit, they made us feel better. And it became, you know what? Like Greg just said, we're not gonna let y'all down. We're gonna step this up. We're gonna hold each other accountable. I remember having meetings. Q know, hey, we're gonna have this meeting. Coach Drew, we got this. We gotta get right. Y'all doing y'all part, we got to step up and do our part. So everything they've been through, I mean, I don't know why that question would even come up with a guy like Coach Drew and their coaching staff taking on a job when clearly you have nothing going for it at that particular time through that situation, tragic situation. So.
Very good. David, you kind of got us started down this road. You know, again, 14-year NBA guy. You know, I'm just really curious on this nice thing. Apparently, well, you've heard from former players, it's working. Is it work at your level?
When you're talking about a nice guy, you know, when you talk about religion and you talk about love, those sound soft. You know, they sound like we're just going to kind of, you know, excuse me, we're coming in. But when you talk about toughness, first it starts in the recruiting period when he sees these individuals in high school. Oh yeah, I like that guy. We're going to bring him in. And then toughness comes in preparation, getting ready for the season, getting ready for practice. You know, the running before you know, oh no, that was too slow. Run it again. Hey, we're looking for excellence. We'll do it again. stop in practice, do it again. That's where you get your toughness from. And it doesn't have to come like all of you have said, calling you out your name or belittling you. You can do and give the same message without all that. I remember having my junior college coach. He was a foot stomper and screamer. And, my freshman year, I'm just getting there. I'm 17 years old, and I go in his office and I say, Coach, listen, I promise you, I'm trying to get done what you want me to get done. You yelling and screaming and stomping your feet is not helping me. And he stopped. And that surprised me as a 17-year-old, but he didn't stop, but he calmed it down quite a bit. And it just told me that, well, yeah, that doesn't work with everybody. And you got to find the buttons to push. And when you have a coaching staff, either the head coach can push those buttons or one of the assistants can push those buttons, especially assistants, because they tend to be a little more hands-on, at your dorm or whatever, checking up on you and following up on things like that. So soft is a perceived thing from people on the outside, but the people on the inside where it matters, they all know.
Yeah, well stated. Terry, you played for a tough guy. Yeah, I'm sure you played for a number of tough guys, but one I remember. So talk about what we're talking about here.
I think for me, I've seen it done on both sides. I think different players react differently to their coaching, and a lot of that comes with their background. I was around when Bob Huggins was at Cincinnati, so he used to come to our JUCO practices. So I got a firsthand of how he was. My JUCO coach, he was pretty tough. But I mean, it worked because he was able to send all his kids to Division I schools, and we won 2 national championships in JUCO. And it wasn't a belittling thing with him. It was him coaching his team to get out of, what he needed to get out of it. What I've seen with Coach Drew is, he takes a totally different approach, and it's worked. I mean, he's gotten, all these guys in this panel. He continuously gets different All-Americans, and his approach is just totally different. And like I said, just being around it and knowing how he is, he'll get everything he wants to get out of those kids, and then they'll get everything they want to get out of Coach Drew. Because I mean, it's truly a culture of joy down there.
Yeah, that's terrific. By the way, I got a comment from Micah Damrow who said, King, Motley was an elite intramural defensive end. Said he knocked his teams out of the playoffs one year. So he just wanted you to know, it may have made Coach Drew mad, but he was a great defensive end.
Hey, shout out Micah, man. Shout out my guy.
I want you guys to know we're 6 past the hour. I want you guys to know, I don't think you're seeing the Q&A chat, but I've had a number of people say to you, thank you for everything you guys have done for the program. Never forget you guys. You really have built. You've each been a brick in the wall that the team now stands on. And I mean that. I mean, I've seen most every dribble for the last 40 years, seen each of you guys play. And what you've done on the floor, what you've done off the floor has really served us well and taken this program to where it is now, where you'd asked me 40 years ago, could we ever get there? I'm not sure what my answer would have been. So King, Greg, Tweety, Quincy, Terry, David, thank you guys so much for this afternoon. I want to thank also Baylor Alumni Engagement, Doug Furch, Paul Ford, Tess Jamerson for putting this together. You guys mentioned DC a couple of times, David Chandler and Baylor Advancement did a lot to round you guys up. And so thankful that you guys were able to take some time with us today. This was terrific. Maybe we'll do it again soon. So with that, I'm going to cut us loose. Guys, sick 'em Bears.
I was just about to say, we can't get off here without sicking them.
All right, I'll lead it. Ready? And sick 'em Bears.
Yes, sir.
We're out.
Thank y'all.
Thanks,
See you
y'all.
guys.
I appreciate you guys.